Today I have gone for a Vapourwave aesthetic, both musically and visually, on Ableton. And I have used the PSS-460 from Yamaha as the only sound source in this composition, but clearly I've upped the sound quite a bit. So let's break it down and see what's going on. So the first thing that I did was play the drum sounds in individually and make a drum rack. So we've got 5 sounds, which I can play for you here. Classic sounding keyboard, 80s keyboard sounding drums. And I made a sequence. So that is my drum pattern. Now let's have a listen to how they are going to sound. So there's obviously quite a lot going on. So let's start with the kick drum, which if I solo here. The first thing I did was I transposed it by 15 semitones. So if I bring that back up to normal here. I have also EQ'd all of the high end and boosted the fundamental frequency in the low end. So if I take the EQ off, we have our 80s toy keyboard kick. Add our EQ and bring it down by 15 semitones. And the reason I went down 15 is because it fits with the key of the track. You know, it'll be fine on 13 or 12 or whatever sits nicely with the chords that you're working with. So onto the snare drum. I think a detuned or a pitched down snare is one of the most important sounds of Vapourwave. So this one came down by 13 semitones. It has some reverb. Probably somewhere. And I've taken out a lot of the low end. Let's bring it back up to 0 transposing. And where's the reverb? Oh, there's a lot going on here. There we go, that's it with no reverb, no EQ. Let's bring that back on. And down by 13 semitones. And so, if we listen to the kick and the snare together. Next we have the hi-hat. There's hi-hat here. Not done very much to this, but I did have to EQ it quite a lot because there was so much low end. Look at all the low end in there. Got a sub bass in there for some crazy reason. So I just took all of that out. And by the way, before I go on, I've just noticed that there is this wobbly sound going on. It's because on the master track I have isotope vinyl, which just adds a kind of tape style wobble. Okay, so back to the drums. The the final drum that I'm using is the tom. Where are we? Here we are. Which I have moved up by 13 semitones. Let's bring it down. So that is the original pitch. Quite a noisy thing. Again, there's mad low ends going on, so I've EQ'd that out. Added a tau reverb. This is such an amazing free reverb. And I've added this overdrive plugin just to add a bit more dirt to the sound. So that is the drums. Let's have a listen to the completed drum pattern. And let's move on to the bass. The bass is actually really simple. All I did was sample one note from the keyboard, as you can see here, and I moved it into a simpler instrument, which is a sampler, essentially. And that means that now I can play this one note. That was the note I recorded, but I can... The Yamaha keyboard that I'm using, one of its big features is that it has a stereo function. So you can press the symphonic button and it gives it a kind of stereo chorus, and that's what you can hear here. I think that's such a nice bass sound. And one other thing that I've done here that's kind of important is this sound is using quite a long release. And in order to stop the notes overlapping each other, if I'm playing notes consecutively, I've put the voices here to 1, which means when you play the next note it cuts the previous one out. If you have some polyphony in there, then that can get very muddy if you're going. So it's a nice tip if you're making bass sounds to make sure that they are monophonic. For the melody, I'll have a listen here to the melody. It is actually the same as the bass sound. I literally duplicated the track. But the only difference is I've added a reverb. Let's have a listen. Oh, and I have made it polyphonic, so I changed the voices to 6 here so that they overlap. And the reason I did that is because when you're playing in the higher octaves, it doesn't sound as bad. It actually sounds really nice. Yeah, so let's listen to all of that so far. And the last element is the chords, which are kind of fading in the background. And this is kind of simple as well. When you break it down, it's actually just a very straightforward chord played in. have a listen. So it's 4 different chords. I have EQ'd it quite extreme here. I've taken out all the low end and all the high end. And I've added this ultra reverb from Eventide. It's got a nice distortion on it, and it makes it just sound kind of dirty. And to get that kind of fading in, fading out effect, I've added a sidechain compression. And the trigger is coming from the bass. So every time the bass plays, the compressor is kicking in, and when the bass stops, the compression fades out back to normal volume. And that's how we get that nice fading in, fading out effect. Another nice wee trick here is that I'm using this Ozone 9 imager, which again is a free plugin. And it's got this stereo-wise section here. If you turn that on, and you can increase the stereo width of a mono signal, which just is it's a really great and easy way to add some width to your mix. That concludes today's Vapourwave / retro keyboard tutorial. If you have enjoyed it, then please like and subscribe.